All right, everybody, welcome to Investigation 13B. This is the American Revolution research. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to fill out a research document using a Google slideshow that has historical data. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to look at more specifically what were the laws and rules and regulations Great Britain put on the 13 colonies that pushed them to risk their lives to fight against Great Britain in order to win their freedom, okay, and become an independent country called the United States of America. So what exactly happened? We're going to do this research. So what I want everybody to do is open the American Revolution research Google document and split your screen. So on the left-hand side of the screen is my Google document. In the center of the screen is the slideshow. On the right side of your screen is your Google document. Okay, so the essential question, I'm highlighting it in blue. Which British policies in the colonies led to disagreements between King George of Britain and the 13 colonies of the New World, which started the American Revolution? So you're going to fill out all of these different British policies, what it was, and how did the colonists react. When you're done, you pick what you believe to be the three most severe policies that angered the colonists and started the American Revolution. But first, I'm going to work with you to fill out the beginning of this to show you step by step how to complete this activity. I'm going to model it for you. All right, everybody look on the left side of the screen. Directions. Use the attached PowerPoint to fill out the grid. The words in each box must be your own. All right, let's take a look. The Revolutionary War, also known as what? Let's take a look at the slideshow and go to the first slide. The American Revolution from 1775 to 1783. The Revolutionary War, also known as the American Revolution. Everybody come back to the left-hand side. The American Revolution. Okay, so follow me. You don't have to highlight. I'm highlighting to show you where we are. Okay, so the Revolutionary War was also known as the American Revolution. Simple enough, and we know this. The war was fought between... The war, on the right-hand side, was fought between the British and the colonists. The British and the colonists. These are the very basic facts we need to know. Okay? Next, well, what was the result of the war? Let's look on the right-hand side. The result of the American Revolution was a new nation called the United States of America. A new nation called the United States of America. Make sure you have that. And we have our basic facts. Okay. Moving on to the next section. On the left-hand side, look what's highlighted in green. What are the colonists' viewpoints on their relationship with the British government? Some people in the 13 colonies were against the British government because they believed the rules and the laws of life were too unfair. Other people that lived in the 13 colonies, they loved the British government. They supported the king because they were businessmen, business people who profited off of the policies of the British government. So you had patriots and you had loyalists. Let's go to the next slide. What is a patriot? A patriot wanted to fight for independence from the king. All right, over to the left-hand side, type what a patriot was. Okay. When you're done with that, what was a loyalist? A loyalist was someone from the 13 colonies who was loyal to the King of Great Britain and the mother country. Okay. Now we have the simple foundational facts. What was the American Revolution? Who fought? What was the result? What were the colonists' point of view on Great Britain and the king? You had patriots and you had loyalists. Now, we're going to take a look at these British policies, these British rules and laws that were put onto the 13 colonies. Some believed were fair, some believed were very unfair. So we're going to look at the policy, and then we're going to look how colonists reacted. Okay? First, on the left-hand side, look at the title in purple, the Navigation Acts of 1756. What does this mean? Let's go to the next slide. On the right, the events leading to revolution. So once again, to remind you, which British policies in the colonies were most significant? So let's say which three out of all of them were most significant to disagreements between King George of Britain and the 13 colonies of the New World, which started the American Revolution? Well, the first one we're going to look at is the Navigation Acts. Let's take a look. King George III used an old law to make the colonists pay taxes on goods shipped in English ships. The colonists responded by smuggling goods. They refused to pay the taxes. Okay, so what were the Navigation Acts of 1756? Okay. So it's a law that King George of England used to tax colonists on the use of English ships. If you're a businessman living in the 13 colonies and you own a shoe company and you want to ship shoes to Great Britain because you know British people in England, they love your shoes. When you travel there, you only brought about 50 pairs. They sold out in a matter of hours. So now you want to ship 2,000 pairs of shoes over to England because British people love your shoes and they're going to buy them all and you could get rich. But guess what? The King of England is going to tax you big time on the British ship that's going to take your shoes over there. Oh, some people thought that was unfair. How did they react? The colonists responded by smuggling goods. They didn't use British ships, even though they had to by law. So this shoemaker possibly paid for a non-British ship to take his shoes to England, and then in the dead of night, they would have to sneak the shoes ashore onto a horse cart and sneak them away. That way, the shoe owner from the 13 colonies, the businessman, would not have to pay the tax. So they smuggled, illegally smuggled goods. Think to yourself, do you think that law is fair or unfair? After all, the King of England and Great Britain did have legal control of the 13 colonies, according to the British government. According to the 13 colonists, you don't know me, you're going to tax me, you live on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, you don't understand our way of life. So you got two sides to every story, right? Two perspectives. Let's move on and let's take a look at the second rule called the writs of assistance. Let's move on. So on the right hand side, click to the next. Well, I have the slideshow here. You have the writs of assistance. Okay, what were the writs of assistance? The King of England, angered by the colonists again, by enacting the writs of assistance, which was another old law. This allowed the use of general search warrants, which let them search anyone, anytime, anywhere. Ooh, the colonists were very angry and protested. Can you imagine if you lived in Hoboken or Jersey City and someone could kick your door in at any time and search your entire apartment or your house, search your bedroom, all the private things that you have in your bedroom? Would you believe that is fair? Without any proof or probable cause that they need to. Or what about you walk out of the high school and you're walking down the street and all of a sudden a police officer decides to search you without a reason? Is that fair, right? All right. How did the colonists react to this? Ooh, they were angry. They protested. All right. So we can see two laws that the British thought were fair from their point of view, but the colonists from the 13 colonies, they thought were very unfair. Two sides to every story. Let's take a look at the next rule or law, the Proclamation of 1763. What's up with this? Let's take a look. The Proclamation of 1763 was an act in which the king said no to settling west of the Appalachian Mountains. The colonists disobeyed his orders. All right, the Appalachian Mountains, if you get in a car and you were to get on Route 280 and you were to drive about an hour west, right, like toward California west, you would reach these rolling hills. They're kind of like mountains. They're called the Appalachian Mountains. People wanted to go and buy land and start farms and live there. But the king said, no, I do not want you to go to that foreign land. The colonists said, what right do you have to tell us? The colonists disobeyed his orders and went anyway. So, the Proclamation of 1763. All right. And how did the colonists reacted? Okay. So now you can see that this is a back and forth between the British government, right, the King of England, and the 13 colonies. The king says, don't do this. 13 colonies, they do it anyway. King says, don't do that. 13 colonies get angry. They protest against it. This starts to build up and boil over. Let's look at the Sugar Act of 1764. You like sugar? Well, the Sugar Act of 1764, it actually lowered taxes for the Molasses Act, but it was more strictly enforced than the Molasses Act. Some colonist businessmen were angered, okay? So this is a tax. on sugar and molasses. Okay? More taxes. More taxes angering more people. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 instances in which the King of England and the British government is asserting their authority, their power, their control over the British 13 colonies. And many people in the 13 colonies were angry. They start to resist and protest. Let's take a look at the next rule. The Stamp Act. What was the Stamp Act of 1765? The Stamp Act placed taxes on any articles written on paper. This included newspapers, wills, licenses, deeds, pamphlets, anything with paper. If you had to put a stamp on it, you have to pay a tax. More taxes. How did the colonists react? Well, the colonists responded by creating the Stamp Act Congress and refused to buy stamps or stamped paper. They also burned pictures of the king in effigy as symbols of rebellion, effigy. So the colonists refused to buy any paper with stamps on it already and burned pictures of the King of England. Whoa. Now things are starting to heat up. Get it? And this is where I leave you. What you're going to do now is you're going to look at the rest. You're going to look at the Quartering Act, the Townshend Acts, the Boston Massacre, the Declaration of Independence, the Tea Act, the Boston Tea Party, the Intolerable Acts, and then finally the colonies, the colonial militia called the Minutemen. They're formed. And then you have the Sons of Liberty and another American patriot group are formed. And then that leads to the American Revolution. And then what you do is I'm going to cut this down. All I want is 3. See what it says down here? British actions, colonial response. What do you think were the 3 unfair laws from the colonist standpoint perspective that you think were the worst that caused the American Revolution? Put it here, put the response. Then when you come down here, put those 3 again. Reason number 1, you had it right here, British action, reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3, and then in your words explain why do you think these are the 3 most unfair rules and laws that caused the American Revolution. Once you do that, you're done and you click turn in.